Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. At this point in time, season 2 is just a couple of weeks away, and as with any major update, especially a new seasonal update, a big part of that physical patch itself is going to be weapon tuning. Every single season, at the minimum, we see a slight change in the meta. Sometimes we see some pretty major changes in the meta based off of Raven's previous statements on how they want to make incremental nerfs and weapon adjustments over time. I don't think we're going to see any drastic changes with the season 2 meta, but today I wanted to preview some of what to expect with the season 2 update in terms of the weapon tuning. What weapons are probably going to be nerfed based off of, again, Raven's previous statements, and also what weapons are likely going to be buffed as well. So you get a bit of an idea on what you might want to focus on leveling up or maybe avoiding in case it does end up getting nerfed. So as we go through it all today, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, every single day I got you covered with all things going on in COD, news, updates, loadouts, tips. It is all right here. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. And also right now for the entire weekend through Monday, actually, my friends over at G Fuel have bumped Code Immortal back up to 30% off. So if you want to get anything in time for season 2, a new starter pack, maybe restock your current favorite flavor, try out a new flavor with a new tub, now is the best time to do so. And the more the code gets used, the better the chances maybe we get another shaker re-release at some point in time, or eventually maybe even our very own flavors. So seriously do appreciate everyone who uses my code. So the first thing I wanted to point out, I don't want to spend too much time on here because this isn't really where the meat and potatoes of our conversation lies, but we've got our overall meta tier list, right? Ranking all the weapons that we have in Warzone here. Very familiar site. We'll be revisiting this once all this weapon tuning is actually put into place. But as we can see, between the competitive weapons and then also the top meta weapons, we have a very, very diverse meta where it's at right now. Unfortunately, because standard battle royale is not always a guaranteed mode in favor of Vanguard Royale, which usually has, you know, at least quads, sometimes solos, duos, and trios in there as well. We don't see as much of some of the Cold War and Modern Warfare weapons, but in general, when you look at all three titles and the current meta mixed between all of them, we got a lot of pretty solid choices, which means that there doesn't need to be any major drastic tuning. But obviously, there's some weapons that maybe need to be brought down a little bit, and there's also some other weapons that definitely need to be brought up a little bit as well. And for that part of the conversation, that's where I want to turn to Warzone Ranks, because this site gives us a lot of very important data, and data that a lot of the devs will actually use, maybe not necessarily directly from Warzone Ranked, but from their own internal data that they gather to actually make buffs and nerfs. And one of the biggest things that the devs have always emphasized is that they want a diverse meta. They don't want to, you know, just always favor the Vanguard weapons, even though that is the newest game and probably a priority regardless because it's a business decision. They still want to be able to have as many competitive and as many meta weapons as possible, right? They want things to be open and diverse, not just limited to 1, 2, or 3 weapons. So when you look at the pick ratio here, that's a pretty important stat because the more weapons being picked, the less others are being picked, and that leads to that meta that's not super diverse. And the MP40 from Vanguard is absolutely a weapon that I would expect to be nerfed with the season 2 update, and same deal with the Bren. These two are currently the top 2 pick choices, the only weapons in the entire game out of the 140 plus weapons we have that are picked by over 10% of the general player base. So those 2 weapons have already been nerfed previously in the whole mid-season update, but as I alluded to at the start of the video, Raven's recently been on this kick about incremental weapon adjustments, which basically means that they want to make buffs and make nerfs, but not drastic ones that immediately change a weapon entirely. It takes it from 0 to 100 or 100 to 0. They want to take it from 0 to 25 to 60 to 69, nice, then to 100, right? Or they want to take it from 100 down to maybe 85, down to 60, down to 40. That way it's not, oh, I just spent 6 hours leveling up the automaton and now it sucks and I can't ever use it again. So that's basically what they're trying to avoid. So while we did already see some nerfs to the MP40 and to the Bren, I can almost guarantee we're going to continue to see even more, especially because the nerfs that were made to the MP40 and the Bren were not significant at all. These two are easily still the top weapons and the top peripheral loadout in the entire game. So I would expect nerfs to both the MP40 and the Bren with the season 2 update. Now you might be wondering, well, what about the MW car? Maybe the Cold War AK, which has dropped all the way down to 10, surprisingly. Weapons that are still very dominant. What's curious about that is that Raven has also said that they are very comfortable and happy with where Cold War and Modern Warfare weapons stand, so it's unlikely that we're going to see many changes to those weapons, buffs, or nerfs, despite the fact that the Cold War AK still rivals the TTK of all the best Vanguard weapons. It's got one of the best TTKs over range. The Lapa SMG, it's actually, let's search for that, the Lapa. It's 73rd picked, 0.09% pick ratio, yet it has one of the best TTKs in the entire game. So while these weapons are incredibly efficient and effective in game, they feel like they're in a comfortable place with those, so I wouldn't expect many changes to those. Really, they're just focusing on the Vanguard weapons for buffs and nerfs. And speaking of buffs for Vanguard weapons, let's go ahead and let's find the CAR 98K. So if I were to search that, the Vanguard CAR is 16th overall, whereas the MW CAR is 4th. I'm surprised that we haven't seen more changes to the MW CAR minus the flinch nerf, but more importantly, buffs to the Vanguard CAR to make it more in line with the CAR 98 from Modern Warfare, because I feel like the CAR from MW is a pretty consistent sniper. It's got good speed, good bullet velocity, good range. Like, it's where the sniper should be. That's like the gold standard of snipes, right? But then you look at the Vanguard CAR and then also the Type 99 and the 3 line, and they're terrible. Their ADS is just atrocious. Their flinch is almost unbearable if you're getting shot at any range, honestly. Like, they're borderline unusable. They're just not good snipers. So I would definitely expect to see some adjustments to them with their ADS speed, maybe with their bullet velocity, maybe with their flinch, to make them more in line with these top picks. Even the Swiss, despite receiving several nerfs and really not being as good as the CAR in my opinion anymore, is the 6th most used weapon. So the sniping meta in specific, I feel like is going to shift a lot more, and Season 2 would be the perfect time for that, especially if we end up getting like the leaked Lee Enfield added in. That's also going to draw more attention to how bad the Vanguard snipers are when compared to the MW and the Cold War ones. Now, other changes that aren't necessarily weapon specific, but instead going to be applied to quite a few weapons, not every single gun, but to quite a few, is those ADS changes that we talked about a bit ago, where Raven basically came out and said, hey, we want to increase the TTK a little bit more, slow down the TTK more, so we're going to nerf ADS speeds. They said by about 20 milliseconds on the weapons that they want to affect. And I think primarily they're going to be targeting LMGs and rifles to differentiate classes up close, where, yeah, you could build the AS-44 or you could build the Cold War AK to be a good close range weapon, but the ADS should not mimic something like an MP40 or an Owen gun or a Lapa, something like that. SMGs should be the most aggressive and best close range weapons with the fastest ADS, whereas rifles and LMGs should be a lot more balanced. That pretty much sums up what they were trying to target there with their ADS changes. But that means that a lot of these SMGs, we could even look at, these specifically, the SMG lineup here could actually be bumped up quite a bit in terms of pick ratio. I mean, the MP40 is by far the most popular SMG in the game. The PPSH from Vanguard is a close second, which is actually pretty surprising considering the MW MP5 is still there and it's honestly pretty solid. The MAC-10 is still pretty solid. And we have these other SMGs like the Owen gun, which I'd say is even better than the PPSH, that are lower on this list. So this list in specific is also going to change drastically once they implement all those ADS changes. And then you look at like the rifles here, we can see the pick rate for some of these actually drop quite a bit, especially if they're rifles that are meant more so for close range engagements. The Cooper is not the greatest ranged rifle, so it's a lot more medium range based. If that gets a slower ADS, that could hurt it some. Same deal with the Cold War AK, maybe even the M13 in some cases. The Automaton is definitely more of a mid-range one, as is the Krig now, the AS-44 especially, the FFAR. Those are things that could really see some significant nerfs because of that ADS change that really make them a lot more difficult to use and a lot less efficient. Now, as always, they could throw in a few spicy changes here and there. Maybe they buff the STG to some insane rate. Maybe they nerf the Cooper into the ground or buff a random Cold War MW weapon. But generally looking at what they've talked about previously and applying that to the current meta and how things stand, those are the changes that I would personally expect for the Season 2 update. As we get any new information, as we get the patch notes for that, of course, we're going to be covering all that right here on the channel, so stick it here for that and everything else going on in COD. Make sure you are subscribed with your notifications on for that. But that is going to wrap things up for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know by dropping a like on it. And also, if you guys want to grab anything from the G Fuel site, now is the perfect time to do so thanks to that 30% off discount by using code IMMORTAL. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.